All right, welcome to another episode from the Chart Readers. Been a while since I've covered this sector, and clearly a lot going on with CGC right now. And truth be told, I don't even know where to start when we get into the deeper thoughts, right? But look at this just juggernaut of volume. Look at that monster gap fill right there, just taking, and again, channel fill, whatever you want to call it, right? But just break the 20, run to the 50, goes to the 100 right there, and then look at this 100 moving average line. We've been under it since, I can even keep zooming out. Basic, what's the last? Look, that's even a week. This was the last good since May of 2024, almost a year and a quarter. We have been well under that 100 moving average line. Little pops, but couldn't confirm. Little pops, couldn't confirm. This is an interesting one, and I don't want to call it a little pop just yet, right? Like, let's see what's the truth behind it, right? All of it was pushed off of earnings. I actually didn't get a lot of details, and I couldn't really tell if it was good or bad, but interesting comment from the Discord. Honestly, I haven't gone to verify it, but the first green earnings since August 2023, a full 2 years. And again, look at it. You had an estimate of that, right? I know it looks insignificant, but every point whatever is a monster number. And when you can beat it by 5 cents, again, they were expecting negative 0.69. That negative 0.62 is a smaller negative number, right? So lovely right there. Revenue right there. Again, I know we've seen stuff where they break 200%, 300%, right? This is green. And if it really actually is the first time since August 2023 in 2 year span, there are 8 earnings calls, right? One every quarter, 4 quarters a year, 2 full years of just bad, 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 bad. Oh, hello, good, right? Like that's gonna do some good things. And I've said way more about just this one because there are other ones I'm gonna talk about, but a lot going on with CGC right there. All right. Tilray has been in an interesting little place. All right. There was an earnings drop right there. You know, I really don't like that, right? But it kind of seems like it's been holding a lot better than I would expect an earnings drop like that, let alone an earnings drop like that on a weed stock. You know what I mean? So interesting to see this not just flat, but actually a little bit up since the down, right? So I think that's going to be my main focus. And easy thing to say is it's hard to go up when you're not even hitting your average line, right? And that's almost exactly what it's been doing, right? So yeah, a little bit on the funkier side, right? Again, you know these technicals aren't here for perfect or exact, right? We're just setting some expectations and then attacking accordingly. And yeah, this is actually a positive, unexpected thing right here, right? Still a little bit to do, don't get me wrong, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, that's a nice little call out right here. I legitimately had no idea MSOS looked like this, right? I was talking about how this was the worst stock in the sector for what actually felt like most of 2025. All of a sudden, what has this thing been doing? Breaking the 20, going to the 50, breaking the 50, going to the 100, breaking the 100, going to the 200. And now, with this candle being over the biggest one to the left, over our little resistance line right here that we'll talk about more, all of a sudden it is now trying to break all five and fly, right? When we look at the weekly, we're coming up on a really critical 50 that if we break it might basically take us from 3 something all the way to 6 up here, right? So a lot going on MSOS right here. And my goodness, that obviously would mean MSOX, which is a 2X, is just crushing it, right? So a lot of love to MSOS. And yeah, I really have had absolutely no idea it's been moving like this. So solid right there. And then high tide will probably be the last one I talk about. And man, we are just kind of living, oscillating up and down on this 100 moving average, right? We're a lot lower from that 250 golden line that I wanted to be at. And, I actually saw something that said the job numbers in Canada were a lot worse than what we were expecting. Like there were way more job losses or there's more unemployment. I didn't really look at the headline, but the labor market is not doing well there. And look, I've always said vices never die, right? Like people will find a way to fund their vices, right? Like that is what they are. And good, bad, whatever. That's not the conversation we're having. It's just vices never die, right? But when the labor concerns rise, that brings these different levels of like macroeconomic things that I don't know well enough to talk about, but I at least want to call it out on this, opening thoughts as uneducated as it was. But yeah, that's definitely something I have in my back pocket as I'm looking at Canadian tickers specifically, all right? And then just in general, whenever I'm looking at this sector, I'm always looking at the Dow Jones because again, we're talking about farming and we're talking about selling in a store. There's no e-commerce, there's no like crazy AI supercomputer stuff here, right? Like the grow light and the lighter I use is like the most technical thing in this whole thing, and I say that jokingly, right? So I want the Dow Jones to look good. I wish the Dow Jones looked a little better, right? I looked at the NASDAQ earlier and the S&P 500. We'll look at it in a second, right? But, I'm liking this bounce right here. And maybe this is a little bit of that Tilray bounce that I talked about only a couple minutes ago, right? That kind of mimics it, right? But I wish this looked a little bit more like the S&P 500, where it's over all the moving averages, where it only had to go on the 50, right? And it's just, it looks better, right? But Dow Jones isn't that bad. I just would like it to do a little better. I really want it to get back over that right there. 44,500 is basically that money line on the Dow Jones. Sorry, my wife is texting me. Give me 1 second. Okay, no, we are good to go. So, yes, I think that's a decent place too. Good timing, babe, on your random but unneeded text. I love her. You know that. Before we go any further and I give you more of my thoughts and opinions, what are we going to do? Same thing we always do, right? We'll take a look at the daily and the weekly to see how things have been setting up. Wow, I forgot my opening thing. Daily and the weekly to see how things are setting up short term. We're short term here, right? We have our 5 moving averages. There are horizontal support and resistance lines that I do draw manually myself. And then when we are done up here, we'll use the MACD, RSI, and volume as our lower indicators. Hey, really quickly, if you can, please subscribe to this channel. Share this video online with your friends. Comment good or bad if you disagree. Look, anything you can do helps so much with these YouTube algorithms. But for real, just being here, giving me your time, oh, I'm so grateful for it, all right? So, look, I said it in the opening thoughts, and as I'm here right now, that's actually what distracted me. It wasn't my wife's thing. I don't know where I want to start on this chart. And actually, I want to zoom back out because I think I have to talk about this. Look at this 100 moving average. All right, first we're going to look at it on this view and then I'll zoom out like I did on the opening thoughts. But we tried right here, right? That's a really good candle. Man, that's a really interesting doji. That's not a bad candle. Look how crazy the wick was. But yeah, just not enough. The earnings is what was around the corner. The earnings is what just didn't allow. What? That doesn't make sense. That's, I don't know if that's, I don't know what, that real? That seems really close from that last earnings. I guess that's a 3-month window. All right, I'm sorry. Something seems weird, but nonetheless, something gaps down right there. If you know the details better than me, please share them in the comments right there, right? But we're trying to break that 100 moving average. Again, monster candle trying to get over that 100 moving average. Just can't confirm. Reject, reject, reject. Here we are again today, right? And again, today for sure there was an earnings. Like I said, I'm a little confused about that one, but maybe it is real. Like I said, this is at least according to the Discord comment. Please correct us if it's incorrect. But if it's correct, the first good earnings since August 2023. 8 bad earnings calls since this first green one today, right? Wild reaction, and I think this easily would justify a wild reaction if this is accurate, right? So I'm talking about the charts right now. since the reverse split, right? A lot of that's in the past right now, right? So there is some interesting thing, and I think it's all this 100 because as we zoom out, right? We relatively speaking, since this line's been created on the 100th day, it was a real stock. Oh no, that's wrong. Sorry. Oh, it breaks right there. Duh. Obviously, it can even keep still zooming out. Damn, all the way to here, right? Since the inception of that blue line, we've basically like under it, under it, under it, under it. We're over it right now. Under it, 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 under it. We're over it right now. Under it, under it, under it, under it. You get the point, right? Like this has not been a friendly line in the lifespan of CGC. All of a sudden, this man, I'm going to tell you, this makes me think this could be the bye bye moment for that horrible line right here, right? And again, it's going to be dictated on the confirmation of today, right? We're not here for a single day. We're not here for a single candle, a single volume pop. We need the confirmation. In a lot of ways, I think it's basically going to be this line right here. Break this one. Is that a little too high? Where are you right here? I'd be pretty cool with this. I'm not going to draw the line, all right? I'm not going to draw the line, but I think I like anywhere from that 140 to 136, right? 136 is the top and bottom of these two right here. And then 140 is the bottom of that. None of them are really that 50% candle right there at 136. Maybe that's actually a pretty good average to use right there, 135, 136, something like that. But I think if you break that line, I'm wondering if I want to lower this. I actually really like that line. It's half of that on top of that. I think 136 is the confirmation for 151 and 2. All right. Look at the 200 moving average. All right. The 200 moving average has been even worse than the 100, right? So it's a little bit hard for me to think over $2 at this point. But I think the fact that I'm even thinking $2, and again, I don't mean me like I'm some like good guru dude, right? Like I'm just talking moving averages. But the fact that I'm thinking we're gonna start breaking the 200 or start attempting the 200 after we've been living under the 8 for so long, right? And like fell right back under all the lines not that long ago. Like that's real good, right? So as much as I'm looking for that 135, 136 range that we were just talking about, I need good volume. And I think I like this view. I think this is my minimum acceptance somewhere here. 30 million. That's a good perfect even number. I need at least 30 million shares in a 7-hour day on Monday, which is a little more than 4 million shares. All right. Dropping to 30, I didn't even look at the math right there, right? But 15, 30, 45. Dropping to 30 would actually be a 33% reduction. So that's not necessarily a good thing. But I think as long as we're living here, that'd be a great thing. What I would love is 50 million shares, right? More than 10% more than today. Give me 50 million shares in a 7-hour day. We're looking for a little closer to 7. Start to get near 14 million shares in that second hour, and it might be really hard to stop this stock from, like I said, at least attempting that $2 line right there, right? So 151 is the next resistance I have, and like I said a couple minutes ago, I kept it because I like that it's the top of that and almost perfectly 50% of that right there, right? So I think that's a decent line to have. But hey, in a lot of ways, you break the 100, you're going to go to the 200, and it might just make a technical move right there, right? MACD's not quite in the positive, but it's close. I see a good green over red, green over red. The same divergence is nice. That's why we have these two. We want to see the same thing. And we've talked about volume a bunch, right? So I'm really liking this daily chart. I mean, obviously it's kind of the same story on the daily and the weekly, right? The 20 moving average is essentially the 100 moving average because it's 5x, right? 5 dailies is 1 weekly, so 5 20s is 100, right? So we've been struggling with that 20. All of a sudden, there's a real chance to break it, and this thing actually says the 50s all the way up here at 240, right? We're gonna keep $2 as our immediate target, but yeah, we'll see what happens from there, right? Listen, I'm not here to make any assumptions about federal legalization, about things like that. But believe me, I love rumors, right? I feel like I've heard rumblings of people kind of saying, hey, the big beautiful bill is going to have something, but I don't think those rumors picked up enough. If we can sprinkle one good rumor from one good Trump source, federal source, whatever, that would be beautiful. All right. One thing I talked about early in the year was look, I don't think Trump is really going to care about this sector in the first year at least. Right? The man's not even done with 25% of the term, and by no means is weed a top 25% thing to think about, right? But I think as we start creeping into year two, a little closer to 50% of his term, maybe even as we look into the beginning of year three, that is where I could see things really heating up, right? So, man, I think we're just a little bit further than I'd like to be. But if you can sprinkle a federal rumor onto some of this earnings love and the first green and good earnings in eight earnings, right? I mean, you can imagine the smile on my face as I'm saying these words. I'm like salivating a little bit, right? You get it. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Let's take a look at a few right here. So I want to flash Tilray. I want to flash SNDL, which I accidentally forgot. Oh, wow, look at this earnings love right here. I had no idea. We'll talk about SNDL for sure. Nice, I'm glad I flashed that. We'll talk about MSOS here. And again, I said in the opening thoughts, really lovely candles going on. Maybe I'll talk about some of the tickers within the ETF as well. Let's at least start with just those three and see what timing looks like. So, Tilray, look, I'm not sure what to think right now because what I have to focus on is this earnings gap down right here. Right? I'm never a fan of seeing that. And again, it's not a set in stone rule. There are always outliers to the things I say, right? And sometimes I'm just wildly wrong. You know that, right? But I generally expect if you to have a bad earnings reaction, you're going to have a bad 3 months until the next earnings comes out. All right. The other thing I always do talk about is confirming earnings reaction. And clearly, we never confirmed. Right? That was a scary gap down. That's not confirmation. That's a bad candle for sure, but look at it, right? It's actually not even lower than the gap down day, right? It's this oops, you get it. Like this was a worse day, right? So as bad as that red was, as much as we ate the whole green that we just were excited about, it actually wasn't worse than the worst. That's a scary candle, but that's just the doji. This doesn't confirm this, right? And then all of a sudden you see what happens after, right? So confirmation matters both ways. And yo, as scary as that is, and as easy as it is to get excited about this one, we gotta confirm, right? So it does go both ways, and I'm glad I saw that and said that real quick, right? From there, look, we this is a great line right here because you get over this line, you're basically going to get over that earnings doji candle right there, right? And that's what we really need. We need to get back over that, and that's what's going to start to make me go up. You know what I mean? So, and from there, what am I looking for? I'm looking for 86 cents afterwards. That was actually the target we were looking for here, give or take. What was it right here? 92. I was probably talking about 92 cents because you break the 100, you go to the 200, right? We never came back down to the 100, right? We've used the 8 and the 20 actually pretty well. And yeah, you break the 68, I believe you're going to, because again, look at it, red, 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 nothing, 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 right? Like maybe something will happen at 75, but I don't even think that. I think you break the 68, you're going to go to 86. That's roughly speaking a 20% channel right there. And then after this, you still have a mountain of red, red, red to climb back to green, green, green if it goes, right? So I think a lot of it might actually be look at what happens to CGC. Because if CGC can get a good earnings reaction, that might do well enough to give this a little bit of sector love, strength, and momentum. All right. But I think Tilray technically on its own get me over 68 cents and a lot of good will happen, right? Where are we on the weekly? This is a pretty weekly, right? All we're doing so far is seemingly bouncing on that 8 moving average. And hey, we're here to love the 8 moving average, right? So just keep reinforcing that for me, right? So that was Tilray right there. Yo, SNDL, look at this right here. Look, I'm not here to say go watch my other videos. I'll just flash it here real quick. But if you do have time, you know I appreciate it, right? SoFi, what it's done on the last couple earnings was go horizontal before we saw the truth. Go horizontal before we saw the truth, right? I don't mind that SNDL is just staying horizontal right here, all right? What I'm seeing is that good gap up. I'm seeing us not lose that 200 moving average the entirety of the time, giving us enough time for that 8 moving average to catch up, and hopefully we bounce and go right here, right? I like that doji. Again, it's very 50-50, and it could go both ways for sure, but this, where are we right here? Oh man, we're down there. Look at this, right? Like, why did I just say that? It's the bottom of this, basically to the penny where our doji is today, right? Like, oh, look at that. I have my next line up there. And that's a decent next line. Maybe something will slow it down right here. I think you break this 168, it'll go to 190, break 190, you'll go to 216. I think that's my 123 for SNDL. I do not believe this will go any lower than 161. All right. I think I would say you got to be a little bit worried if it goes below 156. I think that's my tolerance, mainly because of that gap up earnings. I think anywhere from 158 to 156. But honestly, I think I'm expecting that doji to hit and go. I really like this. I would use 73, I think. 72, 73 cents is our money line for that 190 right there, all right? And then what was the last one? It was MSOS on this one. Look at this thing go. I love these moving averages, right? You break the 100, you're going to go to the 200, especially if the 100 and the 50 are clustered right here, right? Pew! Bouncing on the 8 and the 20 like a champion, right? Boom, 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 right? Like this is technical loveliness right here, right? Let's look at Curaleaf real quick. What does Curaleaf look like? Exactly like MSOS. Beautiful. What does Trulieve look like? Exactly like MSOS and a little bit closer to the MSOS chart because this one's right at that 200 and taking off just like the other one. What does Cresco look like? Not quite as good as the other two, right? But this is making me think it wants to come to the 200 moving average as well, right? So, yeah, volume's actually been pretty nice on the line right there. And then Verano is the fourth one we like to look at. I would say in between. So look, the first two looked great. The other two make me think they want to mimic the first two. That is a beautiful blend for the MSOS ETF that it is, right? And it's actually a little closer to the first two, right? I think we saw Curaleaf was nicely over all the moving averages. Yeah, this one was a little bit higher. Trulieve was number 2. The other two were 3, 4. I think it looks a little bit more like Trulieve, right? But nonetheless, this looks nice. And where are we? Red, 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 green, 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 red, 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 nothing, 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 nothing. Man, there's a good shot that this thing wants to kiss 5 right here because that's a nice MACD. I'm more looking at the number. That's a good 70 right there, right? It might be a little bit high, but that could give us a nice little push from here to there. Where's 50%? Maybe 433 will slow it down. Maybe a flat 4 will slow it down. I think it'll try the 433. Maybe 433 is a better immediate target than 490, but I think the simple thing to say is this went from, I don't want to use the word hate because I'm not here to hate any stock, right? I'm here to not love technicals. This was the least loved one out of all, and all of a sudden this is a monster run right here, right? You go from 2 to almost 4. That's some percentages right there, right? So let me know your thoughts, let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Let's wind it out with high tide. And I gotta say, I'm a lot more disappointed than excited as I look at this chart right here, right? Because I feel like all those other ones that we've looked at to this point actually had more good going on. With Tilray, unfortunately, I have to say there's a little bit more bad going on, right? There are two things that maybe we'll say the bat is a little loose. All right. The first one is, yo, there's too many moving averages, right? As you get three of them together, you start kind of going down, up, down, up. As you bring in the fourth one, you go up, down. Like we might just be on the downside of an oscillation across these moving average clusters. All right. And if that's the case, look, it's not the worst thing. It's just to me a really boring place to be. I like the continuations on up, right? That's what we're here hunting, okay? So if that's the case, I'm just being, loosely annoyed because it's not going up, 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 right? One more time. The concern is a support line can only support so much. And we've now hit it, hit it, hit it, hit it. And now what's also happening is we're going from the top bouncing to rejecting, 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 right? So, like, again, I don't know if this is a moving average oscillation or a support line turning into a resistance line. And if we lose this, we would lose all the moving averages, and there's not a great amount of stuff to catch us because it actually is green, 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 red, 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 green, 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 red, 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 green, green, green. That could be a scary red, red, red down, right? Um, this thing says earnings is in September. That's way too far, right? I got to draw a line down, is really what I have to do. Where's this? Let me start here. Oh, look, I was going to draw it at the bottom of this. I wanted to see where that was. $2 down, and then 175 basically, right? Is that what, yeah, 175 is what I would use. These are my lines down. I'm gonna like high tide, and we've been saying it for a while. It has to get back over 250, right? 254 is exactly where my line is. You can argue it could be interesting to get in at 230, because if you can get in at 230, there might be a 10% to make between this 230 and 250 pop right there, right? But for me, I want to break 250 so I can start thinking three and then plus from there, right? But again, I don't like the fact that we just looked at what one, two, three, four, five, and then a couple stocks within that ETF, right? So we basically looked at about 8 stocks in the sector. This one looks the weakest, and I'm not a fan of that, right? I'm expecting the sector to all be good or all be bad. We talked about sector unison a lot, right? So, um, yeah, a little worrisome. I know people like the management. I know people like Raj. Like that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about these, right? And last thing, just as an uneducated American, just reading headlines and moving on, I saw a slightly concerning jobs number, labor number, something about Canada. And again, vices never die, but if things get tight, people need to, sometimes figure out spends, right? So I'll take the fundamental thoughts and noise aside. For me, get over at least 230 to consider it. Yo, we better not lose 220, otherwise we're gonna lose 10%, and then from there potentially more, right? So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Oh, I appreciate you so much.